Welcome to Amaka Intellectual Factory, where I host podcasts and many other interesting stuff. So today, I decided to react to not just what this white man had to say, but what the black woman that shared it on her YouTube channel also had to say. I have some time on my hands, so why not? And I can still make it to the gym today too. That's a win-win situation for me. Right before she plays the video of the white man, she talks about how this white man talks about why black people are not taught slavery beyond 16th and 17th century. In all of what this white man said, that seems to be all she could properly get from him. That's the problem I have with black people and black history. Pan-Africanism has crafted a false narrative of black history and black people, even when the actual truth is revealed, refuse to acknowledge it. Somehow she missed the part where he said black Africans resented the Negro and partnered with the Islamists, who were also a dark-skinned black people too. They were Hamites or Afro-Asiatics. She missed the part where he said these two dark-skinned black people partnered with the Ashkenazi to enslave the Negro. Now, according to this white man, Islam invented infernal slavery. By the use of infernal, you should know it is a very terrible form of slavery, one full of wickedness and hellish. Then he said the Ashkenazi Khazars, ones who say they are Jews but are not, are the ones who marketed it. He said the regal Negro nomads, exiled from the kingdom of Judah, were the main recipient of slavery at the hands of indigenous black Africans. He describes these Negro nomads as regal, which essentially means dignified or magnificent. They were a beautiful people, we can all agree, based on his description. He repeats this information, but insinuates that Africa is the land of black Africans, and that the black Africans resented the presence of the regal Negro in their land because these regal Negroes had laws, customs. Basically, they were a civilized people. He said the Ashkenazis, the Islamic slave traders, and the indigenous black Africans worked together to enslave the regal house of Judah. That there were the Islamic masters, then there were the white Ashkenazi ship owners that were the buyers and sellers. He said the Romans were slave traders and that they have integrated into Britain and Germany. They have also descended onto Wall Street, Hollywood, and Washington, D.C. just to fuel this war of globalism, which is just another name for colonialism. So here comes his deception, which is why the elites are allowing him to spread this message. He said, if only Israel would just wake up to who is enslaving us, regardless of our skin color. Now that is deceptive. He described this Israel as a regal Negro nomadic people. Another lie. These so-called Negro people were not a nomadic people. Now you and I know that at no point have Caucasians been identified as Negroes. So if he clearly insinuates that the regal Negro nomads are Israel, how can he then turn around and also insinuate or even state that Israel is a mixed race people? And if you observed, that I refused to address him by his name, then you observed right. This is a classic psyop. And if you're following my series on the origin and source of monitoring spirits, spirit spouses, and their targets, then you would be familiar with the psyop terminology. Every now and then, the elite would throw some white man or some white woman out there to give this type of speech. Through their ceaseless research on psychology, they have found that this psyop puts the so-called black people to sleep. Anyway, he goes on to talk about how Islam started their slavery with the Slavic nations before descending on the Rigo Negroes. He talks about how the Portuguese participated in the slavery as well. You see, that is the problem I have with Pan-Africanism and Afrocentrism. They put out a dangerously false narrative that all black people, quote and unquote, lived in a paradise until white people came and destroyed that paradise. When in actuality, dark-skinned black people have historically terrorized and enslaved light-skinned and brown-skinned black people. And these light-skinned and brown-skinned black people were returning home when they fled the Middle East and into Africa. They were not foreigners. Africa is their motherland. These people are playing games with us. There is yet another white man who says the original Africans were white people. This other white man says that because he knows the original Africans were light to brown skin and not dark skin. These dark-skinned people are black Babylonians, and I will talk about them in my series on the origin and source of monitoring spirits, spirit spouses, and their targets. Somehow, the African woman who posted this video missed the part where this man said that the black Africans partnered with the Islamic people and Ashkenazis to sell the Rigo Negro. This type of selective understanding is dangerous. Here are the facts that are being obscured to keep you confused. Yes, Islam for a long time enslaved Slavic Europe. A lot of these Islamic people called themselves Moors, and they were dark-skinned black people. America is the only place where a lot of black American men call themselves Moors. The so-called black Africans were not Africans at all. How you would know is when you ask the various groups in Africa about their origin, and these dark-skinned black people will tell you about their migration story. Then there is the Bantu migration, which is what he is really talking about. If you read Chancellor Williams' book, The Destruction of Black Civilization, he mentions the dark-skinned people known as the Mbagala, who were a terror to the Bantus. Even in the United States, it is in their history that things started to really get bad for blacks of lighter complexion when they integrated with the blacks of darker complexion. In the Caribbean, it manifests itself in Creole, the darker complexion black people, against the Garifuna, the lighter complexion black people. And the dark-skinned black people's persecution of black people of lighter complexion never ended. In fact, it plays a fundamental role in present-day gang stalking. You have multiple cults of dark-skinned black men who go about gang stalking and profiling light-skinned black women in America for wives and prostitution. They are human traffickers, and these are the people I figured out that have been profiling and gang stalking me. America has given these people so much power and authority, so they have all the technology and resources they need to carry this out. Till today, you would hear dark-skinned Black Americans say stuff like, "Oh, that's light-skinned people's stuff," just as much as they would say, "Oh, that's white people's stuff." And it's usually in relation to things that are elegant. And by the way, Negro and Bantu were code words for Igbo. They might say Hebrew, but it is actually Igbo. The Sumerians were Igbo. The Phoenicians were Igbo. The Carthaginians, though somewhat mixed with other groups of blacks like the Pygmies, Black Babylonians, Hamites, were still predominantly Igbo. The Igbo were also identified as Oriental. In fact, when the Nazis were looking into this dark-skinned black people's war on light-skinned black people, they identified Igbos as Oriental. When we talk about the Islamic slavery, we are talking about the Hamites or Afro-Asiatics. But their persecution of Igbos or even women who exhibit the elegance of an Igbo is still ongoing and is a fundamental part in gang stalking. Till today, a lot of these people, especially their men, are a problem anywhere you find them. I'll give an example with my personal life. At work, the black guy giving me problems is a Hamite. Now, how do I know he's a Hamite? His phenotype. We can all be identified by our phenotypes. That's how to break down this video. I could go deeper, but I'll stop here for now. I have to point out though that I have got a lot of love for dark-skinned black women. I find them incredibly beautiful, intelligent, elegant, and an enjoyable company. At least a good number of them. Unfortunately, their dark-skinned black male counterparts have been brutal in their treatment of dark-skinned black women. I can't profess that same love for dark-skinned black men, other than my immediate family members that are dark-skinned black men. And the reason is because they are the ones gang stalking and profiling me, at least in addition to the Hispanics, Asians, and Caucasians. You can always go back and watch the original video to get a better understanding if you want. The title of the video is "White Man Exposes Something Shocking to the Black People." And the YouTuber who posted it is Gigy's Spot. Until next time, take care of your lovely selves. And remember, life is beautiful and worth living.